Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Traverse the Stars podcast, third season. How my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. This is an amazing episode because Roger Langridge boards the mothership to discuss Justice Ducks from Dynamite. Now, come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Roger. Thank you so much for coming to the Traverse the Stars podcast.
Most welcome. Nice to be here.
It's totally my pleasure. So, I always start off with a question of inspiration. So, inspire your love for comics and who are your earliest influences?
I started reading comics before I could actually read. When my brother and I would go with my mum on long car journeys to keep us quiet, she'd throw Disney comics at us. So the Disney Ducks are sort of my first reading experience, really. Certainly my first comics reading experience. Mainly the Karl Barks comics, which were being reprinted at the time, pretty much exclusively. So Uncle Scrooge, Donald Duck, the short stories in Walt Disney's and comics and stories, all that stuff.
Now, I mean, I was a fan of Ducktales in the '80s. Darkwing Duck came out in the early '90s. So, how familiar were you with Darkwing Duck and the cartoon series from the '90s?
Not at all. I had to do some homework when I was offered the assignment. So, I went back and watched some of the old episodes, particularly the ones that pertained to the Justice Ducks, so that I was sort of up to speed on who they were and how they all interacted and their personalities and all that sort of thing. Fortunately, the people at Disney who are sort of looking over the scripts tell me when I'm not getting it right or whatever, so I can sort of adjust and course correct. So hopefully what comes out at the end is pretty faithful to the screen versions.
Was there a particular character that was hardest to get a handle on?
I don't know, just the dynamics between them I wasn't too sure about. I hadn't seen them all sort of with one another before. In the original show, I think there's only a couple of episodes where they're all together, and it's usually separate appearances for most of it. So just getting those dynamics was a little bit difficult. Darkwing himself, I really enjoyed writing. He was probably, he's got that sort of Donald Duck quality where he's a complicated character. He's irascible and bad-tempered, but he's also capable of rising to the occasion and accepting responsibility. He's got those contradictions going on. So he was loads of fun.
So when you're thinking about the Just Ducks team, one of the characters that to me is a fan favorite is probably Gizmo Duck. Coming back from DuckTales. So when you're thinking about Duck, there's always a debate, I think, in the world of Darkwing Duck. I know Tad Stone voiced his opinion as well, whether or not it connects to DuckTales. So we were thinking about Gizmo Duck. Did you go back to DuckTales? Did you consider them the same character?
I've only seen a few episodes of DuckTales and not for a very long time. I wasn't aware that Gizmo Duck actually came from DuckTales originally. I figured that out when I looked at the Darkwing Duck wiki, and it sort of pointed me in the right direction. But no, I mean the interpretation I was going by was the one that was in Darkwing Duck, because this is very much the Darkwing Duck universe, so I thought that was the relevant material to look at. And as I say, I was sort of trusting the editors and the Disney people who were looking over it to tell me if I was getting it wrong. So
for those who don't know, Gizmo Duck back in DuckTales is known as Fencing Crackshow. He's the guy underneath the suit. In the comic book, when you're just determining what Gizmo Duck is going to be like on the team, is there a question of Fencing Crackshow being his own person? Or would it kind of explore? Are we ever going to explore who's in the duck in the suit?
There's a lot to cram in with 5 characters sort of bouncing off one another, so looking into their personal lives wasn't really a priority. There's a little bit of that with Morgana and with Drake Mallard. I've got a few scenes where they're in their civilian identities, and Gizmo Duck does pop up in a civilian identity in one of the issues. But there's not a whole lot of focus on that. It's just not really how the book works. But obviously you have to acknowledge that they've got lives outside of the superhero suits as well. So it's finding a balance between those two.
Well, I think what I love that you did, especially in the third issue, is that you are developing the Morgana, Gosselin, Darkwing Duck kind of like family dynamic is playing out there. Kind of how do you view that team within a team, that group or that group within a group?
Well, I think that's the handle that certainly younger readers are going to get. That's like their way into the stories. I think they're not going to identify with superheroes particularly. But the family side of it is something that they can understand, and that's sort of their way into everything else that's going on. So I think that's important, and certainly it's if you're looking for like a human connection, which most stories you really want to have a human connection. That's your way in. So yeah, it is important, obviously. Yeah.
And when you're thinking about that trio, because they've been developed since the cartoon, it was developed in the Darkwing Duck series as well by Amanda Dibert. Do you view them now as like a fully kind of fledged family unit, or do you still view it as this Darkwing, Goslin, and Morgana's trying to earn her place in the family? Well, not earn, that's the wrong word. Trying to become that third member of the family, the maybe the matriarchal figure.
I don't know. I think the ambiguity about their relationship is something that's um, nice to maintain. I like that it's not um, presented as a fully established thing. That and obviously in real time, if they'd been together, it'd be 30 years now or something. So you have to sort of fudge that a little bit. But there's something nice to explore about just finding your way into that kind of thing. I think if it's a process rather than an established status quo, that's more interesting because you've got somewhere to go, I suppose.
And I think the interesting thing is that your series, Just the Ducks, does come off the Darkwing Duck comic book, which continues out from the TV show, and there's also the spin-off book, Negaduck. Darkwing Duck the series wasn't really known for its continuity. They didn't really episodes kind of happen and then they reset the next episode, things of that nature. When you're thinking about plotting your Justice Duck series, do the previous series have an impact? Like, did you go through Darkwing Duck's comic book and think, how does that connect? Or like the TV show originally, it kind of just resets itself and it's not really. It is a kid's comic book. The continuity might not necessarily be a big deal.
Well, certainly for my 5 issues, it's what I wanted to do was to have something that would have some consequences throughout the series. So you're sort of building towards a final an issue that ties everything up, kind of thing. So the whole series sort of plants seeds that leads towards that. But each series, I also wanted each issue to stand on its own because people are going to be reading them in isolation. Particularly if it's kids or parents buying them for their kids, and not hardcore collectors. That's the audience you're trying to write for. So yeah, that's what I had in mind. I didn't really. I mean, I do think that the sort of resetting it is kind of what Disney wanted anyway. I don't think they particularly want me to take it from A and leave it at B. They want me to take it from A, take it to B, and then put it back at A. So that's kind of what I've tried to do. But yeah, with some stakes and hopefully some intrigue and things that you can sort of second guess along the way.
No, actually, I don't think I knew that the Justice Duck series is only running 5 issues. Is it 5 issues with a chance for more, or is it 5 issues in a spinoff into something different?
Well, they haven't talked to me about it anymore. I don't know. So maybe if it does well, there'll be more. But yes, I haven't had that conversation, so I don't have any insight into that, I'm afraid.
That must be. I've been loving what the Darkwing Duck series. Because I mean, I'm a '90s kid. I mean, I was in my I think when Darkwing Duck came out, maybe it was like 11 or 12, so like right at that right point to be watching it. And I loved it. Loved it a lot. And I love what Amanda did with the Darkwing Duck series, and I'm liking what's going on with Negaduck. Is there any potential, do you think, for a crossover between Negaduck and Justice Duck? Like Justice Duck's will be like moving in that direction, or are we doing something different?
Well, when I was head of this assignment, I was asked to avoid the alternative universe stuff because they'd sort of done that to death for a while. Yeah. So it was supposed to be a break from that. Whether they go back to that at some point, I don't know. But that was my brief, So,
was there any conversation with I believe Mr. Parker with with the two storylines or headed between the two series, Negaduck and Justice Duck?
Didn't come up. I wasn't aware that Negaduck was happening, to be honest. I mean, I'm sort of friendly with Jeff on social media, and we've met a couple of times. So, if we did have to coordinate, I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem. But as I say, it didn't come up.
Like I do love Justice Duck. I think one of the interesting things about Ducks is that it kind of in my head does have a Justice League sense where each character is known, they're used to being individuals, and now they're stuck in a team. And like for instance, Darkwing Duck is not known to be a team player. He's not. His ego is quite large. His desire for the spotlight is quite large. So when you're thinking about developing his character and how he fits into a team, how do you fit an ego of that size onto a team of egos of their size?
Well, I think the tension is what makes it interesting. The fact that this is an uncomfortable situation for him to be in means that you've got, it's a bit of grit in the oyster. It gives you something to build some characterization around. And one of the challenges is to find excuses for him to acquiesce to being part of a team, because that's obviously against his nature. So you sort of take him on a sort of character journey to if not fully embracing the team dynamic, at least finding ways for that to work with his own personality, and that's what makes it interesting. That's why it's fun to write. If it was, if everybody was easily getting along, it would be a much less fun book, I think.
Is he? I'm sure he believes he is, but is he, in your opinion, the leader of the team? I know you're.
Well, as you say, I think he believes he is. But there again, there's that tension. He doesn't want to be part of the team, but when he is there, he wants to be the top dog. I've been sort of, without explicitly saying Neptunia is the leader of the team, I've been writing it as if Neptunia is leader of the team. She's, got her head screwed on in that sort of no nonsense, this needs to be done kind of way. So yeah, that's how I've been writing it. But don't tell Darkwing.
Well, I mean, when you think about the team, just between Darkwing Duck and Gizmo Duck, those are two very self-assured individuals, to say the least. Who has the bigger ego, in your opinion?
Well, the way I'm writing Gizmo Duck and the way I've sort of interpreted his previous appearances is that his sort of bravado is much more of a role play. It's not actually him, he's playing the part of a superhero. Whereas Darkwing is a superhero to his bones, So that's how I've been playing it.
And I mean, obviously, Stigma would not be leadership material. Is within that group, I guess Morgana is what makes Neptunia the more logical choice for the leadership role of that group, whether or not they all agree to it or not, as opposed to maybe Morgana or Darkwing or Gizmo. Definitely not Stigma. But I mean, I would say almost even Gosselin seems to be slightly more mature than Darkwing on some level.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think Neptunia isn't so much a people pleaser. I think Morgana is perhaps has more of that in her personality. So if something difficult had to be done, she would be trying to make everybody happy, whereas Neptunia isn't worried about that so much.
As far as the team and like motivations, Neptunia is basically sort of like an Aquaman character, where her kingdom is in the ocean, not on land. What motivates her to want to help those who are on land, as it were?
The way I was writing it is just that she sees a job that needs to be done, really, and these are the people who can get the job done. And I suppose she's got a pre-existing relationship with them as well. So, logically, if a problem has to be solved, she knows these people, she can get them together, and there you are. Yeah.
Outside of, let's say, I kind of feel like Stegmund is the one that kind of just is agreeable to everything. He's
Yeah.
like, like he's the least. I don't know if the self-aware is the right word, but he's the least concerned with his own place in any situation. But for the others, if you kind of were to dig a little deeper into who they are, would you say that they're willingly part of this team or not? Do deep down, are they happy, like especially Gizmo and Darkwing, happy to be in this team, whether or not they would admit it or not?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the setup in the first issue was that they decided to sort of try out being an official team. They hadn't been before. They'd just sort of been thrown together by circumstance. Whereas this is their experiment with being an actual team, with ways to contact one another when an emergency arises and all that sort of Justice League stuff. So maybe the experiment won't last. Maybe after the 5 issues, they'll, go back to the previous status quo. I don't know. I haven't sort of broken them apart or anything at the end. It's they're still, friends at the end. So who knows where that's going to go? Some of the writer might want to take that in a different direction.
So when you're looking at the team, you have your basically your primary five members, but technically Goslin's part of the team on some level, and Launchpad, other than the third issue, is kind of part of the team. So you're kind of like what, seven different characters. How difficult is it to balance seven members on a team? How difficult is it to give them each enough moments to shine and determine what their dynamics are going to be with each other?
Quite hard, yeah. I'm not used to writing that big a cast. The stuff I've done in the past tends to focus on a single character or double acts, pairs of characters. So I mean, part of what your average team book does is set up a conflict at the beginning, then split off the characters so they can each deal with a separate part of the crisis, and then sort of team up at the end, kind of thing. So there's a bit of that going on. Yeah, I mean, it's a learning process for me, I guess. I haven't I wouldn't say I've mastered it or anything, but hopefully it kind of works. I'm holding it together with spit and baling wire.
When you're like I said, you haven't you were aware of a lot of these characters before you earned the gig. Now that you've learned the characters, is there a particular character that has grabbed your interest more than the others, and that you find yourself writing a little bit more than the others because you just find them more fun?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I think Darkwing is my guy on the team, just because he's got those contradictions, and that he's not easy. He's not easy to like. So part of the challenge of writing him is making him sympathetic. Yeah, so he's definitely the most fun.
How fun was it to write? Because the big thing with Darkwing Duck is when he first arises with a big speech, I am, um,
Yeah.
is there how fun was it for you to write that, and what to you is the key to writing one of those speeches that he does when he first arrives on his scenes?
Uh, well, for me, I didn't want to just trot out the catchphrases over and over again without variation. So a big part of it for me was finding new ways to lead and to make you think he's going to go through the catchphrases verbatim, and then find a twist each time so that it surprises you. Yeah, definitely. I did want to keep it as fresh as I could, because you've got this balancing act. People want him to hit those beats,
Yeah.
but you don't want to bore people either. So you've got to mix it up a bit.
And I think another thing that you've done really well. For those who are reading the Negaduck series, all the primary villains of Darkwing Duck are in that series. Megavolt, Negaduck, all of them are in that series. You've been creating new adversaries in your book. So when you're thinking about who the Justice Ducks are going to fight, what in your mind kind of makes a Darkwing Duck villain? Like is there particular parameters you kind of work within to say that this is a character that fits like the mold of his rogues gallery, as it were?
There was a bit of trying to. I decided that it was quite early on. It was a suggestion from the editor Nate Cosby that we make all of the villains aliens for this series, as like a theme that would sort of make a coherent collection when it's finally collected. So that was one thing that was on the list. Silver Age comics. I mean, it's got a very sort of Silver Age comic feel to it, with the style of storytelling and the kind of superheroes they are. So Silver Age aliens was, that's sort of narrowed it down slightly further. And then, just finding things that interested me, and finding, the bit in the Venn diagram between the demands of the story and my own interests, was sort of where I went with it. So I wasn't really thinking too much about previous villains. Possibly that's a benefit because I wasn't, repeating anything. So yeah, that's kind of how I went about it, and it all sort of builds up to a connection between all of these various aliens in the final issue. But we won't find
Really?
what until the end.
Okay. Well, one of the characters that appeared, especially in the most recent issue, is the Motley Squad. They're kind of like space clowns, maybe, kind of, sort of. So are these characters that are going to reappear again? And I know Stegma is a big fan. So are these characters that may reappear or what?
Well, not from me. I mean, one of the rules that I was given when I was handed the gig was that I wasn't to make up any new recurring characters. So If they change their mind about that, it's there for them to use, obviously. But I'm not going to be reusing them because that's those are the rules. Um, there we go.
Were there, did they state why that was a rule that you can't have any recurring characters, new recurring characters?
Maybe it's just legally complicated if somebody creates a new character. I don't know. Maybe they.
It's Disney, right? What can you do with Disney? When there's been rumors for a while that Darkwing Duck was going to get a new series. There's been discussions. I think there's been even some artwork out there. I know there's been a DuckTales revival that had Darkwing Duck in one of the episodes. Was there any quick conversations with Disney that what you can or cannot do because of the upcoming series that may be coming out?
No, this is the first I've heard of it. I didn't know anything about that. So, um, yep, no idea. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. It's another thing that in the Darkwing Duck circles that people have been talking about. Everyone, because I know Tad Stone said he was working on it. I know there's some suggestion that it's supposed to be worked on still. And like I said, I know it came out of the DuckTales cartoon a little bit, but I don't. There's not much. It's only rumors about what this could be. So I was wondering if there's any like, keep away from this character, and maybe that's a hint of something going on in the Darkwing Duck cartoon coming up.
No, I wasn't specifically asked to use any characters apart from what I was handed at the very beginning. So yeah, no clues there, I'm afraid.
No worries, no worries. Like I said, another character that everyone is, I think, is one of the favorite characters in the series is Stegmutt. Everyone likes Stegmutt. In your opinion, when you're developing the dynamics of the team, where does Stegmutt fit?
He's keen to help. He wants to, well, he wants everyone to like him, and the way to do that is to be helpful, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I found him a little bit difficult to write because I wasn't, there's a fine line between uncomplicated and comfortable in his own skin,
Yeah.
and you don't want to cross the line into simple too much. So I tried to play it that he was maybe not stupid, but had a different kind of smarts. He had emotional intelligence. Maybe he was, he knew who he was and had no hang-ups about it.
I think that's really interesting because, especially with these characters, there's definitely you gotta keep it humorous. You gotta keep the characters, because they're funny characters. There's certain aspects of them that's kind of silly. Is that a tough road to walk between silly and stupid?
I don't know if it's that tough. No, I mean I know what makes me laugh, and sometimes stupid is appropriate. Sometimes you want stupid, but you don't want it too stupid, and you don't want stupid all the time. So, yeah, I mean just trusting my own sort of comedic instincts. I've been doing this for 30 odd years now, so I kind of know what I'm doing.
Well, like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, I really do like the Justice Ducks. I think it was a fun continuation of the Darkwing Duck comics as well. Like I said, and I buy them. I don't know. I mean, I'm a lot older than the audience are probably going for, but I still enjoy it. When are you finding that there's people my age buying them a lot, or are you thinking or finding that they're more of like a younger audience buying them?
I don't know really. I've only been to a couple of conventions since it started coming out, and I've had one or two people mention it, but not. It's not. I don't really have a lot of feedback yet. Maybe once the book's collected, I'll get more feedback. I don't know. I always try and write for an adult audience as well as a child audience because a lot of kids comics parents are actually buying them for the kids, so you want it to appeal to them first, really. And the Disney comics I grew up on were written for both audiences. Carl Barks wrote for kids, but also there were loads of jokes in there that only adults were going to get, whether it's references to popular culture or whatever it might be. The stuff that, I mean, he was making references to 1920s popular culture in the 1950s, and there's no way that the kids were going to get that. So yeah, I try and run for both audiences. I think that's apart from maximizing the number of people who are likely to buy it, it means that the work might last a little longer. People might still be reading it. They might be reading the same comic that they bought when they were 8 years old, when they're 28 years old or 38.
Well, like when you say parents are buying it for their kids, I kind of feel like the buying for the kids is like in air quotes. Buying for the kids. That's a good excuse. I mean, you know what? I'm 44 years old. I'm not embarrassed to say I buy the comic books.
Quite right.
But they're, I mean, they're so much fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like some comic books like Hellblazer, were like dark and complicated and gloomy. But I feel like you kind of need the Justice Duck comic book every once in a while, just to kind of this lighthearted thing after a long day of work and be like, I'm gonna just have myself some fun. I'm gonna enjoy myself this enjoy this book.
Yeah, no, we need that. I think in these the times in which we live, it's been a very strange, decade or so. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think people are looking for light relief. People are looking for something to lose themselves in.
I will, like I said, and I think there's nothing wrong too with a little nostalgia. I mean, when I read your book, Justice Ducks, I do hear the voices from the cartoon.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
great.
I mean, it could easily have been done where they don't feel like those characters, but these do. I mean, I hear Gizmo Duck, you hear Darkwing Duck,
Great.
and I think you're doing a great job with it. Or
Well, thank you very.
so, what can we look forward to the upcoming? I guess there's only two issues left. So what can we look forward to in the next two issues?
The next one has uh an appearance by Honker, who's Gosalyn's friend.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a new friend of hers who pops up, who won't be a recurring character for reasons we've discussed. But he's a bit strange, and we find out why he's a bit strange. And there's some shifty characters looking for him for reasons. So that's what that one's about. And then the final one, it's sort of a mad scientist story, and we find out why all the aliens have been visiting.
But there's no indication of where we're going for after year five are up.
Well, if they've got plans for it, they haven't told me, so I can't tell you. But I hope they'll do some more with it. Um, Hopefully, I've left them something to play with, something to build on.
So what's next for you?
Well, for me, I've written a series for the Judge Dredd magazine over here, called Pandora Perfect, which is about a sort of Mary Poppins, if Mary Poppins was a jewel thief. Um, it's sort of a futuristic comedy thing. I'm doing a regular stripping kids comic here called Monster Fun, called Sally Astro, about an alien girl who is looking for the queen of her planet, who's run away to have a good time, and she's come to Earth. So there's that. I've got a graphic novel coming out in October from First Second Books about the Prohibition era, which I've illustrated. It's written by Jason Viola. That's a part of their history line, so that's sort of got an educational bent, but hopefully it's still quite fun as well. Um, what else? What else is coming out? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's the main points. Yeah, I do a web strip on the internet as well, which is like diary strips of my own life. So that's you can see those at hotelfred.com, or if you follow my social media, which is hotelfred.
I'll make sure there's a link in the interview so people can click to it. Make sure
Great.
it's there. Roger, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for doing a great series of Justice Ducks. I was wishing there was more than five. So, but thank you anyway for being the five you're going to do. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.
Have a fantastic day.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Traverse the Stars podcast. Please help me battle the algorithms by liking and subscribing. Be sure to turn for the next episode when Aaron Rovlevsky boards the mothership to discuss Blood and Fire from Red 5 Comics. To next voyage, travel on.